Hey, welcome to my run. Hat might be a little too chic. Take that off. I don't know what the hell my hair's doing. Hey. So I'm out for a run, kind of like around my neck of the woods. Didn't go to afternoon training because I have an appointment later this evening. And, like, things just get really kind of like pushed, right? So like I have to hurry to this, I have to hurry to that. And for many years, like a decade, 11 years, I pushed through everything. Like there's no taking my foot off the gas pedal. Like there were times that I was just like not able to really do what I wanted to do in training at all, and like exhausted and just really just pushing myself through it and like just get it done. And I think this is helpful, and I think it is a phase that one should go through for many reasons and the ways that it kind of builds you and helps you. And I've done many vlogs about this, like just let it suck, like just suck. There are some days that you're just gonna be like pretty useless, and this is actually kind of good for you. Like you learn how to work under those circumstances. Then in my own development, I reached kind of a breaking point where I literally just couldn't. Hey mama, it's a really beautiful mama dog here. Let's see if you can see her. Hey. She doesn't trust me. We'll keep going. That I reached a breaking point. Like I fell apart pretty bad, and so now I'm taking a different approach. And I'm not saying that the other approach was wrong. I'm not saying it was bad in any way. In fact, I think I got a lot out of it. It's not good for me now, and maybe it'll be good for me again later. But at this point, I've become more fragile in some ways that I was not fragile before, which is very hard for me to deal with. It's kind of like a very big point of my identity, and kind of my ability to push through things was this like just fucking do it, just be tough kind of thing. And again, it's not wrong, but it's weird for me to be fragile now, because like I just never allowed myself to be fragile before. And it makes me laugh a little bit because I was that kid who's like, oh, so mature for your age, and like, oh, you're an old soul, and all this stuff. Like I was a weird little kid. Like the kind of stuff I would say when I was like 6, 7. Like I was an unusual kid. I was the youngest of 4, so I also was mature for my age, and that like all my influences and stuff come from older people. Like the people I was really hanging out with and raised by and spent all my time with, these are people older than me. So a lot of my references, like the movies and the music and stuff that is like what I think of as my upbringing, is actually like a good 10 years older than I actually am. And that's because I had older brothers. So like my oldest brother is 6-7 years older than me. So there's a lot of like, you know, things that were cool for him, his generation, I want to be like my brothers, so they were cool for me and that kind of thing. But that's not the point. The point is, they're like, oh, you're so mature for your age, or like, oh, you're so tough, you can like really grit this out. You get to a point where you're like, thanks, it's the trauma. Like my ability to have hypersensitivity to everyone around me and make sure that I'm not like upsetting anybody or like disbalancing the aura of anyone. Like this, it's not a bad skill. It's not something that's like that I regret having or anything like that. But how I got my toughness, or how I used my toughness, and I'm still very tough, it's maybe not what I need now for the development that I'm trying to get to now. And it kind of sucks because when the things that you measure yourself by change, it becomes really hard to find like a new way to measure that. And I'm having a little bit of a like identity crisis because I'm not fighting right now. Like I haven't fought like since my last fight. It's been a little while for me. It's not crazy, but it's been a couple of months, and I used to fight like multiple times a month. But it's been a couple of years that my fight rate really slowed down. So like it's been a few years since I was like fighting all the time. COVID changed that a lot. My recognition in the Muay Thai world, and like who will or won't fight me and under which conditions and blah blah blah, like all of that stuff, it's never one thing. Like it's a bunch of things all together that cause these changes. But while it has been a couple of years that my fight rate has been slowing way down, I haven't caught up in terms of like my identity and how I think of my Muay Thai and what I'm doing. And I'm doing amazing things in the way that I'm training, and like my sparring with Yokin Pan is actually really incredible right now, and I'm doing kind of stuff that I was never able to do in fights. And I'm starting to be able to do it like under different kinds of pressure, and yesterday I was sparring with a kid who I've never sparred with before, and so it's like when you get put into one of these unfamiliar situations, that's when you really get to test yourself. This is why a lot of people, when they're like, how come I'm able to do stuff in the gym and then I'm not able to do it in a fight, it's because like you don't know that guy that you're fighting. Like they throw you in with some chick you've never met before or who you've only heard about and you're kind of afraid of, and it's a completely different thing than sparring with Greg, who you see like every Tuesday at the gym or something like that, you know. And so I'm excited about these things that I'm able to do. It's gonna be super awkward. I'm walking by this gym and I'm like talking to myself on the phone, so bear with me. I'm gonna be awkward. So I am proud of the things that I'm able to do in sparring and things like this, but I also have this recognition, I have experience, that when you're not fighting, either because you haven't fought yet, or you don't fight very often, or you haven't fought in a long time, which is my case, your understanding of what you can do becomes a little bit skewed. Because like I said, you can do it in sparring, or you can do it in training, or you can do it in this, that, and the other thing, but you don't have that like test, that test of the fight to see whether you can actually do it. And again, there are things you absolutely can do, and you just can't do it against that opponent. That happens too. So again, all of this is very like caveat, very complicated, and you can't just say a thing and that's true. But I kind of have this fear, maybe it's like how people are afraid of becoming their parents or something. Like I have this fear of becoming one of these Farang who's been in Thailand for a really long time, and they like stop fighting or whatever the thing is, and they start teaching or training or whatever the thing is that's like that comes after fighting, and they just lose track of the reality of whatever it is that you're teaching someone or showing someone doesn't necessarily work when you have a gun pointed at your face, which is the fight. And I don't want to lose track of that. And like I'm aware of it right now. I'm talking about it right now. But like these things that I'm able to do in sparring, I don't want to think like, oh my God, I'm so much better now than I ever was before, without being able to do that under the pressure that I've always had to do that before. Because the way that I fight, the fact that I've fought people bigger than me in so many of my fights, and I don't mean a little bit bigger, people are much, much bigger than me, that really shapes what you're able to do. And the kind of fighter that I am is heavily, heavily influenced and shaped and forced by the fighting opportunities that I've had. Because I'm trying to win fights, right? Like I'm not going in like trying to, be the most female fighter or something like this, which I've fought so much. I could have and should have used fights with that purpose. If I'd been a little bit more relaxed about it, I could have been like, I'm going to use this fight to only try to land knees at a distance, or only try to kick, the kind of stuff you do in sparring, but under the pressure of a real fight. But you know what? As much as you can be like humble and down to earth and chill and realize how much you're doing things, it matters. Like you care. I was thinking about musicians, like, I don't know, not Guns N' Roses because Axl is an asshole, but someone of that caliber, like a band that's huge and tours and does like so many shows. There are musicians who must know that tonight in Cleveland was just not your best. Like you know that you kind of gave not a great performance to all these people who are really excited to go see you, who love your music, who will forgive you because they love you. But like, you just have to move on, you know? Like you just have to be like, not my best, and move on. Which is just how I handle social situations, you know? I'll leave a social situation and be like, not my best. Harp on it, think about it, lose some sleep about it, but then you move on with your life. Like your only option is to keep moving. So that's kind of what I'm worried about right now. And I'm not done fighting. Like I'm not like I don't want to fight anymore. I want to fight. it's a little bit hard because I don't want to fight under certain conditions. I have, you know, boundaries and standards and things like this for how I want to fight. I don't want to be put into situations that I'm very unhappy and I'm just doing it kind of thing. But I don't have full control of that. I have more control over it than, you know, many other people, which is why I can choose to not fight the kind of fights that I don't want to fight and that kind of thing. But, you know, I've said yes for so long into a lot of like really, really hard situations, and I'll have to keep saying yes to them in order to keep fighting, but they're not even flying around anymore. Like, I don't even have the opportunity to say yes as often as I used to. And so yeah, I'm having a little bit of an identity crisis in this sense. And I think that's natural. I think that you go through a few of those in your whole lifetime. I remember graduating from high school. I took a year off before I went to college, and it was like, I have never had this kind of huge change all at once, you know, like living in the town that you grew up in. Like, my family never moved. We were not a family that moved even down the block. I grew up in the house that my grandmother grew up in. It's like, they're really, really big changes, and they kind of force you to rebuild under very, very different circumstances. And I guess the more things you try to hold on to, the harder that move is. But I like these things. I like these elements of myself. I like some aspects of myself I really like. And those happen to be the ones that are kind of under fire right now, just a little bit rough. Because the parts I don't like about myself, they're coming with me. They're like attached. They're not the kind of stuff you put in boxes without years and years and years of therapy, I guess. But maybe that's the next step. I don't know. I don't mean to be a downer. I gotta run. I'll talk to you guys later.